Hey queens, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we will be ranking my entire Morphe collection. I have so many Morphe palettes. Morphe is definitely where I started as far as eyeshadow goes. I've had all type of palettes from them, from the plastic to the cardboard, pretty much. If you want to hear me rank my entire Morphe collection, don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's get into it. Okay, so pretty much I think what I want to do, I'm going to start with the best and end with the worst. I want to say my first palette that I am completely obsessed with is the 3502 palette. I felt like the 350 palette was the hottest thing on Morphe's website for a long time. I have the Second Nature palette, and this is what it looks like. My palette has been through so much. I mean, I'm missing one down here. I don't even know what happened to that shadow. But I definitely love this palette. This was like my go-to fall palette. I love the orange shades. I love the fact that you could wear these shades every day. This palette definitely came with a lot of transitions. I was definitely obsessed with this. When this palette was out, I was using this palette every day. Every single day I was doing some type of look with this palette. I would have to say this is my #1. If I had to choose between all these palettes right here in this stack, I would definitely have to hold on to this one. I'm obsessed. Even though it has that back, it's not in cardboard, it's okay. I can look past that, but I definitely love this palette. My #2 favorites would have to be two palettes, and it is the Jaclyn Hill 1 and Volume 2. I definitely was obsessed when these palettes came out. What I loved is that these palettes you could create any type of look with. The Volume 2 was definitely my favorite, but what I didn't like about the Volume 2 is that it wasn't a vegan shadow anymore. So I know a lot of people, that was like one of the big controversial things around that time. A lot of people were talking about how I can't even use it, it's not vegan for those who are vegan. I really did like the fact that it was a vegan palette, but it still didn't stop me from buying it. So this is what it looks like. I love these shades. You could tell how pigmented these shades are just by like off first impressions. Purple shades, you know, these are my favorites down here with this pop of gold. I mean, this palette is super creamy. And then for her first one, my palette looks so beat up, y'all. It is so beat up. It looks like it's definitely been through the ringer, but I can say I created some bomb looks with this palette. You can't even tell on camera. Don't even look that bad. But I definitely love these shades. I love, love, love them. I don't really use a lot of her brand, but I do love her collaborations with Morphe. These will forever be a staple in my collection, in my opinion. And then #3, we got the Vault. Now, the Vault, people said all types of stuff about this thing. Some people felt like they got bad ones. Some people felt like their pigmentation was off. I am so lucky that I got one of the good palettes. All of my palettes were easy to blend. I didn't have a hard time. I really did love the concept of this. This is something that I haven't really seen. When she was doing it, I didn't really see a lot of people doing it. I really did like the fact that I love the names. I also love the names of the palettes, and I do like the fact that each and every palette in this Vault collection, you could create a different theme. So for instance, if you were like going on vacation or something, you could just pick one, or you can bring all three. This was definitely, Ring the Alarm was definitely one of my favorites. I have to say, out of all four, Ring the Alarm and this one, it still was my favorite. It wasn't like my top fave, but I did love the fact that she did like dark greens and stuff like that. But this is definitely my favorite, and this is the Bling Boss palette. You guys know I love the purple tones. Like, going back through my makeup collection just gives me this nostalgic feel, and it just makes me want to dive back into these palettes. And then this Armed and Gorgeous palette was also one of my favorites. I think I'm gonna leave these out. Maybe we'll do like a throwback Thursday or something. But I definitely love this collection. I know it's not one palette and it's 4, but I was not gonna do a ranking my Morphe palettes without this collection. Up next, I have the 35G palette. This was the Bronze Goals palette. To me, I felt like this palette was like a everyday palette. Like, you can use this palette every day. I feel like any skin tone, anybody can use this palette every day. And I even also like this like Hunt, this pop of pink that just came out of nowhere. Like, I love that. I really did love this palette. I haven't reached for this palette much. I think I'm gonna do like a week of Morphe. I'll have to do 5 mini looks and upload every single day with a mini Morphe look or something. I think that'd be a nice way of like getting good use of my makeup collection. But as far as the 35G Bronze Gold palette, I love it. It never let me down. The pigmentation was definitely there. It is one of my favorites. Up next, we have the 3503 Fierce by Nature palette. And this is where my collection starts to not so much be like my faves, but just like, okay, I bought them, they were nice. I don't hate them or anything. It's just, I just don't constantly see myself reaching for them. And this is definitely one of these palettes. The only thing I did not get about this palette was this random green. It was like everything else was pink, maroon, orange even, and then like this pop of green just came out of nowhere. I guess it makes the palette like unique in its own way. I can honestly say I just don't reach for this palette. I don't know. When I bought it, I wanted it. I created a really nice look for it, but then after that, I just didn't see myself gravitating to it. Will I declutter it? Probably not. But I definitely would say this is not one of my favorites from Morphe. Up next is the 39S palette. It's the Such a Gem palette. Now, I love this palette because it's purple, right? But it's also purple, so I can't really reach for it every single day. This is one of those palettes, if I was looking for a certain purple look, I would definitely grab this one. Sorry, it's just way too big to put in a frame. I do love the color scheme. I also love the pigmentation of the palette, but this is just one of those other palettes that I would honestly say don't reach for as much, but the pigmentation is definitely here. Definitely here. I would definitely say this pigmentation for this palette is bomb. It's just these colors here aren't my everyday colors, but I still do love the palette. Now, this palette, I really do like the shimmers, but the mattes, no. I felt like the mattes, they just didn't have anything that complemented my skin tone. And I feel like when you put a palette together, I know you can't have something in there for everyone, but for majority, you should keep everybody in mind. So I just kind of felt like I didn't get that from this palette. And this is the 35F palette. I think it's like the 35 Frost palette. I believe that's what it was. But the shimmers is bomb, and all of this is shimmer. In this palette, you literally only have one row at the bottom of mattes, and I just felt like with this row being here, I can't really get that many transition shades out of this palette. I would like it better if I had more transition shades, but still, like, the shimmers and stuff are bomb. But if I wanted to just go somewhere and bring this palette with me for a trip or something, I would have to bring something else that had more transition shades, so that would be like not really gonna work for me. Up next, please do not get mad at me for this one. Do not get mad at me. Close to my least favorite. I have 2 more left, and it is the Morphe x James Charles palette. I know I don't want people to get mad at me. Honestly, when I first initially saw this, like, not talk about the person that's on the cover, any of that stuff, but when I first initially saw this palette, I really did think that it had a bomb like storyline. I love the color scheme and everything in here, but it's just another one of those palettes. Like, to me, this is definitely what they set out for it to be, our artistry palette. So if I was going to make some bomb colorful looks, this would be something I would gravitate to. On an everyday basis, for me, no, but maybe for other people, yes. Outside of it, it's just I just don't I don't know. I just don't know what really happened with me and my Morphe relationship. I noticed they still put out palettes. I recently picked up some palettes from them, but as far as my old stuff, this is just one of those palettes where I'm not gravitating to it. This palette just looks like so many other palettes in my collection, so sometimes I just find myself grabbing the same one over and over again, and I really do need to start using my palettes more. I mean, I did pay for them, so I definitely need to use them more to get better use, but as of now, I haven't really been gravitating to the Morphe x James Charles palette. I don't see myself like reaching for it anytime soon. Now, some of those previous palettes I just definitely mentioned I definitely want to get back into using, but this is just not one of those palettes where I feel like I'm going to be featuring this palette again on my channel anytime soon. Up next, I have the 35XO. It is the Natural Flirt palette, and I would have to say I never touched this palette. I bought it and I was very uninterested. I don't know why. The transition shades were just too fair for me. I just didn't feel like they would ever complement my skin tone. This is what the palette looks like. I love the other shades down here. Majority of these are shimmer, but there's not that many. That this palette is just, it's just another pink tone palette. It just doesn't seem very interesting to me. It's like I bought it when I came out because I was excited, and I think it was more so the hype that was put behind it. You guys know I'm 100% honest with you guys. It was the hype. It had me really all worked up thinking that this palette was going to change my life, and I got it home and I did like this and put it away. Like, I did not reach for this palette. And maybe what I need to do is like do a, like I said, a week full of Morphe palettes and just put palettes in there that or how about this? How about you guys tell me, out of all these palettes, which one do you want? Which ones do you want me to do a look with? Whichever one has the most vote, or whichever few has the most votes, I would just do a week worth of Morphe palettes or something like that, just to get the use out of, because at this point, this hasn't been touched. This is like a brand new palette, and I definitely need to be reaching for this. Okay, last but not least, I have the 35S palette. This palette, I will not even consider doing a look with it. This palette is boring. Like, this was the most boring palette. I believe this was when I first got into eyeshadow. I had no clue what I was doing. I was just buying stuff. I was just like, I'm gonna buy this. Like, no rhyme or reason. I'm gonna get this one. And it just, I don't know. This palette is not, it has no rhyme or reason, no organization when it comes to the color theme. It's just a bunch of colors. In my opinion, this is what I see, just a bunch of random colors. I'm not interested in it anymore. This is definitely one of the worst, or not the worst palette in my collection. For sure. Like, I would definitely have to say that about this palette. Out of all the palettes I have by Morphe, this is the one. And it's not them, it was just me. Poor decision making. I should have bought something else. It was just something that I saw that I thought I can create these crazy looks with, but I'm not really, it just doesn't interest me anymore. So yeah, that is it for my Morphe collection. That is it for me ranking all of my palettes. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today's video. That's pretty much it for me ranking my Morphe palettes. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I can also rank more palettes. I have so many palettes by so many different brands. One thing I did like about doing this video is that I showed how my taste kind of changed over time. I feel like that's just what it is with makeup. You try new trends, you try new things out with the old and with the new, and so on and so on. And then another good thing about makeup is that you can be bored with something and then you can give it a break and then go back to it, and then it can inspire you again. So I want to get inspired by all the palettes that I showed you guys today. I hope you get inspired to go through your collection, maybe do some ranking of your eyeshadow palettes. If so, let me know down below so I can check your videos out. And yeah, that's pretty much it for today's video. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon in the next one. Bye guys.